Hi guys. I'm really sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully you can see the stream. Um, please please message if you can't. Um, I'm here. All right. So originally it was I was supposed to have a presentation here as like one half of the screen, but unfortunately I didn't get it to work. So it's just going to be me talking to you guys, and I will send in the presentation to you after the webinar. All right, fantastic. I'm really sorry for this delay. All right. So today we're going to be talking about standing out in your interview. I just want to introduce myself really quickly. I'm Juha. I'm the co-head of applicant outreach for Finland, and I'm a third-year BA history student at Cambridge. So yes, let's get started. I'm really sorry that you can't see the slides, but I will send them to you, and I will link the slides to the video, which is going to be of this webinar, which is going to be put in on YouTube. So the first thing is, as I presume that there's a lot of people who are listening to this who have not yet applied, actually. Number one thing, how you can prepare for your interview even before submitting your application, is this. Both Oxford and Cambridge ask for written work when you apply. And it's usually 1 or 2 essays for most subjects. So key here is to send in work which would be the easiest for you to discuss with the interviewer, because you'll typically discuss your personal statement and the work that you send in, so 1 or 2 essays. So definitely do not send in work that you think might be only sort of don't be led in your decisions of sending in by grades. That's what I'm talking about. So don't send in a piece of work that just got good grades, good feedback, but think about what you will actually want to talk about in your interview. So in terms of grades, the work might be kind of okay-ish. But if you feel that that is something that you're really passionate about, send it in, because that is going to be something that you will be discussing in the interview. So going on from here. So you've received the interview invitation, which should come sometime around the end of November. I think I remember receiving my interview invitation at around the 20th of November. So the first thing to do after that is to go through your personal statement very thoroughly and read it as if you were an interviewer yourself. And make sure you know exactly what you meant by every single thing that you wrote in that personal statement. So read a sentence and ask, so what? What did I mean by this? What are its implications? What could be of interest to the interviewer in this sentence? I have an example from my own personal statement that I'm going to read out, and on which I I brought it up because it was something that I was really like intensely grilled on during the interview, and I had not really thought it through. So the passage goes like this. So this compelled me to reflect upon the subjectivity of periodization in history. In some ways, rigid periodization helps us to construct a coherent picture of the events of the past, but can also obscure the graduality of change. So what I was talking about here was periodization, which is an important concept for history, which is kind of the way how we divide time into, you know, decades, centuries, certain periods, antiquity, Middle Ages, modernity. So that was what I was talking about. And but the issue was that I had not really properly thought through what I meant by that. I was asked, well, what do you think about periodization in the 20th century? And I was totally confused because I had not thought about it properly, and I had to more or less um, invent stuff. So yes, you'll have the snippet in the presentation, but I just really recommend you to go thoroughly through your personal statement and think about the implications of what you have said. And if you sign up to be mentored through Project Access, um, this is usually what you will do with your mentor, as um, you will have a kind of a mock interview with your mentor, and your mentor will go through your personal statement and interrogate you on the implications of what you've written. So, thing to do number one: go through your personal statement thoroughly, and by thoroughly I mean very thoroughly. Um, okay, second thing to do. It's a bit cliche, but I would say that you have to put yourself in challenging situations because the interview is very challenging. Well, of course, I don't mean to over exaggerate it, but I just want to say that it's a pressurized situation. So a very good way to practice is to put yourself in these pressurized situations before you actually go into the interview. So for science applicants, and I see that there are there's someone like natural sciences applicant in the comments. Um, this would mean that you should do a lot of math. And a good way to practice is to put yourself in a pressurized situation in which you have to do math in front of someone else. In science interviews, what typically happens is that you would discuss the personal statement for a bit, but then you would jump right after into doing and solving mathematical problems. And having this having this ability to be tranquil in a situation in which you're doing math and someone is looking at you, and you're able to keep your nerve, do the math, and explain how you've come to a certain conclusion. That is a very good skill to practice before the interview. So this is for the sciences, and for the humanities, the format goes like is slightly similar, but of course without the math. You would go through the personal statement and go through your written work, and you would be asked questions about those. For humanities and social sciences, good way to practice is also to put yourself under pressure, but here it's a bit different. Um, I I would recommend you to do past IB or passed, well, this is principally for Finnish students, so I'm using a Finnish example, like past IB or past ylioppilaskirjoitus papers, and look at the questions and try to come up with an answer to a particular, let's say, history or politics or philosophy question in the span of about a minute. So the minute that kind of time frame will give you pressure to try to think as fast as possible. And of course, if it's possible, you can always practice with someone, practice with a family member, practice with a sibling, or with a friend. So I would compare kind of the difficulty levels um, of uh, high school exam questions um, to the questions that you would have at interview. So yeah, what is the procedure for med? That is, we have a question here. I think for medicine, it will be quite similar. I've read quite a bit of personal statements for medicine, and there, kind of the discussion revolves around the kind of your psychological ability to be a good medic, your skills related to empathy and taking care of another person. So I think there will be a bit more discussion on that as opposed to like a science subject, because they need to test a bit of your aptitude. And but after that, you would jump to kind of the math related parts of the interview. And everyone else, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to write in the chat, and I will answer to them as like as you right after you post them. So to continue, yes, use past high school papers to practice. I think that would be something that I would have done if I were to be interviewed today. For humanities, social sciences applicants, read the question, try to come up with an answer in about a minute, sort of 1 or 2 points, and sketch out a reply in English. So the kind of the challenging part for non-native English speakers would be to be able to express their thought clearly and concisely in English, kind of in a in a ready manner. I mean, of course, you can be very, very good at English, but it's nevertheless worth practicing. For humanities and social sciences applicants, but also I think for sciences and maybe for medicine to a lesser extent, a third good way to practice is to read academic literature or kind of texts related to your subject and summarize their arguments in a written form. What is kind of the key difference between high school and university is the fact that the questions that academics look at in university are very much open-ended. There's a lot of debate related to interpretation of evidence. There are these scientific quarrels. So a big part of being an academic is argumentation. So, and that is going to be something that is going to be tested in the interview. So practicing your argumentation skills is also very important, in a sense that, like for example, if you're a history applicant, uh, read an article, summarize its arguments, and see whether there are any key weaknesses that you can point out. Wait, we have a bit of questions. Yes, any tips on behavior, etc. in general? So non-academic stuff, behavior. Well, I don't know what you mean, but I suppose you mean like way how to way like how to dress, how to kind of carry yourself. Um, dress uh, dress like standardly. Don't worry about dressing fancy. And and what if, for behavior, I think my um, kind of the most important tip that I would give is to take your time when you answer a question. We will come back to this. So what happens if you can't solve the question? For this is for math, uh, probably like sciencey applicants. Uh, it is very important that when you're doing the question, you sketch it out on paper, so you're able to show to the interviewer how you think. And then if you run into a problem, you can just turn the paper around, show them that I've taken these and these and these steps, and I can't seem to solve the question any further. Um, then it would be then they will be very eager to help you and to guide you forward. So someone who commented here basically said what I just said. Um, what is something that seems logical to say but you shouldn't? Um, can you elaborate on that? I don't really think I see what you're looking at, what you're getting at with this. So yeah, we'll we'll continue with the non-existent presentation, uh, which is going to be available to you guys soon. So yeah, 3 ways to challenge yourself: do public math in front of other people. Uh, for humanities and social sciences, use past high school exam papers to as a repository of difficult questions that you could answer quickly and concisely. Aim for about a minute, um, and practice in English, because of course the interview is going to be in English, so it's good to practice that. It might seem obvious, but if you're not a native English speaker, it might take a bit of time to kind of shake the rust off. So you want to have plenty of experience of speaking English uh, publicly to someone who is listening to you. And 3, uh, argumentation skills. So reading uh, literature related to your subject, even if it's a science subject, even if it's medicine, there's things related to medical ethics, for example, where there is a lot of kind of difference in interpretation. So reading those, uh, a good resource would be your local university library, or the reading lists set up by the universities. So practice your reading skills and detecting the argument of what you're reading, and then summarizing it and looking for potential weaknesses in it. The third thing to do when you are preparing for the interview um, is to go through any of the literature that you've mentioned in your personal statement, because those will be likely most likely to be the books that will be discussed in your interview. So you want to know your books very, very well. And after you've received the interview invitation around the 20th of November, if not already now, and the interview itself, which is going to be between the 5th and the 10th, roughly, you will have plenty of time to read more. So don't forget to also to read more around your subject and to go through the books that you've mentioned in your personal statement. Succeeding in the interview itself. I think the most important tip that I can give you now is to all right, we have some questions. Just a second, I will answer those soon. Just a moment. So in the interview, embrace awkward silences. By this, I mean that it is okay to take a minute to think about the question, like literally a minute. Just it's okay that that there's going to be a very long, awkward silence. Don't worry. It's okay to take your time to think. You might even tell your interviewer that, sorry, can I have a moment to think about this if you're confronted with a difficult question. Think in silence, and when you think that you've come up with a good answer, deliver it. Kind of not being afraid of awkward silences is a key thing that you need in order to prevent yourself from rushing to an answer. One of the most effective ways how you could torpedo your interview is to be confronted with a difficult question, and then you would rush to an answer without thinking about this properly. So don't be afraid of awkward silences. Just think calmly and say sort of deliver your answer only after you've thought about it properly. So let's look at the questions. Bring pen and paper. You'll probably be provided pen and paper. Can we bring our personal statement? It really depends. But I think you'll be able to. I would recommend just knowing your personal statement very, very well. So just make sure that you know what you've written and just go from there. Because it's possible that the college is going to think that you've brought a cheat sheet, which might be problematic. The second point is related to the first one. Do not hesitate to ask clarifying questions, and make sure that you do ask when you don't understand something. 3. The interviewers might push you. They one of the key functions of the interview is to see how you react to information that is unfamiliar to you. So if you're confronted with new information, approach it flexibly and take into account how it might affect your previous conclusions. And it's also okay to admit that you don't know something. When that occurs, ask clarifying questions instead of inventing things. This might seem as like sort of very, very obvious advice, but under pressure, it's possible that people say things that they don't really mean. They blurt things out. This is something that happened to me as well. I'm not the most calm person, not the best with my nerves. So, and this is a very nerve-wracking situation. So, and for this, I come back to again to having the patience to be silent. So be silent for a while, think about what you want to say, and then say it. Um, this is for science applicants. The next point, uh, display your math clearly so the interviewers can guide you if you make a mistake. So I think also due to the fact that the interviews are such a kind of their format of assessment that is so varied, there isn't really a massive amount of things to say because an interview can take so many different courses, and apart from kind of the obvious stuff that I've outlined here, that is that is all I have to say for now. If you have any questions, you can I'll stick around here for a bit for the next 10 minutes. So please just write your questions into the chat, and I will try to answer them. And I will be emailing you soon to share the PowerPoint presentation with you. So yes, as Tim said in the chat, interviews are around the beginning of December usually. So so quite soon already. So if you've received your interview invitations, just book your flights immediately. I'm not a chemist, so I can't really comment on the last question in the chat, but when it comes to interviews, I'm pretty sure that the interviewers will give you all the resources that you need in order to uh, succeed at the interview. So if you will need a periodic table in chem, they will provide it for you. And if there's not going to be a periodic table, I suppose it will not be there for a reason in order to test certain chem related skills. And in the meantime, if there's no questions, I want to talk about kind of Project Access in general. We are a international student organization which helps underrepresented and disadvantaged students to apply to top universities in the UK and the US. So if you feel that you want help with your applications, please don't hesitate to contact us. You can find us at projectaccess.org, and then click the Find a Mentor tab there and sign up to be mentored. We have a very large mentor pool, so it's quite likely that we'll find someone to help you. They're all very kind of dedicated individuals, so there's a lot of quality help available. So how many interviews do you usually have? It really depends, usually at least 2. At Oxford, it may be that you might have even more. You might be kind of recycled throughout several colleges and stay there for a few days. You can have even 4 or 5 interviews. So how long is the interview? Mine were about 30-40 minutes. it goes by really, really quickly. You're usually provided with enough material to kind of fill the time. I might actually ask you guys a question. Maybe you can write shortly in the chat how you've been preparing for the interview and what kind of help you would like from your mentors to what kind of help do you think would be the best for you in preparing for the interview. In the meanwhile, before anyone will contribute to the chat, I will kind of continue talking about Project Access. So yeah, a student organization composed completely of volunteers who were in the same position as you and want to help you. Does the university provide accommodation for the interviews, or do you have to find something yourself? Yes, they do provide accommodation. As you probably know, in Oxford and Cambridge, right? Someone already answered that. Yeah, they do provide accommodation. Oxford and Cambridge are collegiate universities, so students typically live in colleges, and the interviews are right after the start of the Christmas break, so all the students have gone home. So you will be able to stay in the halls. Yeah, that's a good qualification in the chat. So yeah, if you live like very close to Oxbridge, then they will assume that you would drive there. But of course, but definitely if you come from outside the UK, you'll have a room to stay for a night, or for several nights if you'll have many interviews. So yeah, so I just to sum up what I've been advising you, go through the personal statement, put yourself in pressurized situations, both in terms of if you're a science applicant doing math, or like writing short essay answers to essay-based questions if you're a humanities or social sciences applicant, and just continue reading. Read over the things that you mentioned in your personal statement, and then read new literature. And definitely signed up to be mentored through Project Access, so you will receive help and potentially a mock interview as well. I'll stick around for a couple of more minutes to make sure whether there's going to be any more questions. Thank you very much for tuning in. This webinar will stay on YouTube, so you can always return to it. And I will link up the Google Doc with the presentation in the description. And we will be in touch with you if there's going to be any new events here on YouTube or somewhere else. We have a question. If you have to fly in from somewhere else, can you arrive a day early and still have accommodation? Yeah, so if you're flying in, you would fly in the day before, have accommodation for the night before your interview, and then you'd have your interviews before midday, and then you would be expected to fly home in the evening of the day that you would have your interview on. So yeah, just fly in early. Yeah, and Oxford provides accommodations for longer because they have longer interview periods. And the college typically also provides you with meal vouchers, which give you an opportunity to dine for free in the dining hall. So you don't need to worry about getting food. so that is kind of the these are the practical things related to the interview. All right, so could we be asked about something in the academic reference? No, probably not. Very likely not, because uh, you're not supposed to have read them. Or I mean, of course, it's possible that you might know uh, something that you might roughly know what your referee talked about in the reference, but in a sense, it's not something that would be written by you, so you wouldn't know um, what is there. So the reference should technically only be for your teacher and the interviewers only. So JP Nielsen is asking a similar question. So no, it will be very, very unlikely that there would be something uh, something lifted from the teacher's reference, um, unless it's like a very exceptional thing. Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that there could be something from the teacher's reference. No, really not. It's the written work, and then it's the personal statement. All right, fellas, I think we will be wrapping up. Please get in touch with Project Access through the mentorship platform, or then you can email me at juha.hovindalo@projectaccess.org. I will have my email address in the description when this video is going to get put on YouTube, and you can always return to the stream to watch it again. Right? Bye.